darts. I'm just going to be honest with you. I actually probably prefer the darts to the football right now, if I'm brutally honest with you. So, I'm showing you where my priorities lie. What is there to say about that one? What is there to say about Tottenham Hotspur for the rest of this season? Not a lot, is there? Really? You know? Lackluster game. Not a bad game. Not a particularly great game. Just kind of meh, I think you would say, wouldn't you? Um, it's funny, isn't it? I saw just before this game that this was the first game at Stamford Bridge since the Thomas Tuchel Antonio Conte handshake game, which I know that was at the very start of last season and this is at the very end of this season, but that felt like an absolute eternity ago. Um, it can't come around any sooner. Stamford Bridge is just not. It's never been a good place to go for Tottenham. I know people. There was a lot made of 14 players missing for Chelsea, all this type of thing. I can't say I have, a full grasp on what Chelsea's starting 11 is, but again, it feels like one of those sort of things that's been a bit overstated. It didn't seem like it was that weak of a Chelsea side, right? It sort of felt like that was pretty much what they go with. Cole Palmer was playing. That was one of the big ones, wasn't it? That everybody was thinking about not playing. But I don't know, man. It's Chelsea. It's Tottenham at Stamford Bridge. Not to be hairist, but it's kind of two bald men fighting over a comb, isn't it, at this point in the season? Because I don't think we're getting Champions League football, and that's not even trying to be defeatist. That's just being honest. I think Champions League football does seem like a stretch for us. You would like to think that they would put in more of a fight for it, but I mean they don't seem to be. Ange Postecoglou was saying before the game, in the lead up to this game, that not just the players, but other members of the coaching staff and I think the staff in general at the club still need to buy into what it is that he's wanting us to do. Which I don't know. I suppose Dan Kilpatrick before the game. Don't know if you saw that. I did a live of him. You can listen to the audio as well, wherever you get your podcasts, or you can just watch it on here. There's my cat going on around in the background there. It's nice of her. And he was saying that it wasn't sort of maybe intended to be an overly kind of confrontational or negative thing from Ange Postecoglou. Just more making the point that there is still work to do in embedding his principles into the club, into the playing staff. And yeah, I mean, maybe that is the case. I don't know. Because obviously in the lead up to this game, there's been people sharing the game from White Hart Lane earlier on in the season where it felt like the season kind of fell to pieces for Spurs. We were flying up until that point, knocking the ball about really nicely. We see that goal, Son's disallowed goal. It's come from like a beautiful move. Spurs have been, they've played the ball about with confidence. It looked like everybody knew what they were doing. Everybody was playing to a plan almost, and that kind of zest, that sort of verve, has been missing, hasn't it, for months now, really. And I don't think it's alarm bells over Postecoglou or anything like that. I think some of that kind of chat started to creep in a bit, hasn't it, from various people. I'm not buying that. I'm not really buying that. But at the same time, I do think our performance levels have dipped over the course of the season. And that's just what happens when teams pick up injuries. It's what happens when I guess players feel like there's less to play for, less to fight for. Um, but is there anything more to that? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think. Again, I'm not. I when I did my temperature check on Twitter during the game, I saw a few people saying, "Oh, they're not playing for him anymore. They're not playing for him anymore." And again, I don't really think I buy that either. I'm not sure that all of these players are fit for purpose. I think we have spent a bit of money. We have got some good players in there. I don't think our squad is strong enough yet, and I think that's definitely been shown over the course of the season. We haven't even really played a full proper season as we have done in the past few years. No European football. We've gone out of all the cup competitions early doors. I mean, really, one thing, I guess, one outlier on this is that we do have a lot of international players in our team, given that we are one of the better teams in the Premier League. But in saying that, most Premier League teams now have, you know, at least probably 6, 7 internationals. I've plucked that figure out of thin air. I have no idea how many internationals each Premier League team has, but probably a lot, I'd imagine. Um, So the natural sort of wear and tear of a season is probably at the thinner end of the wedge for Spurs this year. Should be at least. Yep, adapting to a new coach, adapting to a particularly uh, intense coach with intense methods and intense style of football that's physically demanding, places a lot of pressure on the players. So I guess that's a consideration. Um, but I hate saying this sort of stuff because I don't fully believe it, but I don't entirely not believe it. There's a part of me that feels like it's probably for the best that we haven't gotten Champions League football this year because I don't want the people in charge of this club, namely Daniel Levy and just the people that make the decisions at the top end of this club, to kind of rest, to think, look, Postecoglou's done a good job with what he's got. We've gotten into the Champions League. He probably doesn't need that much more. We bought in Richarlison a couple of years ago. We got Kulusevski in. We brought James Maddison in. I think he's grand. We'll get Timo Werner in and maybe a couple more players. I think the fact that our performance levels are starting to dip, the fact that we may even get overtaken by Manchester United, and in a way for Spurs that would almost be a blessing in disguise, because if Manchester United overtake us, it probably means they'll have beaten Arsenal and derailed them on their almost, I feel, inevitable trajectory to winning the Premier League this year. I don't know. The squad needs a lot of investment. There's been rumours about the investment that is going to be placed in the squad this summer. If that's going to vary, whether or not we get into the Champions League or not, I think that would be short-sighted. And we've seen in the past, haven't we? It's not made a difference whether or not we've gotten into the Champions League as to the type of players we can attract or the type of players we even seem to go for. We always sort of tend to delude ourselves with the idea that, well, if we're in the Champions League, it means we're going to go for big players that are going to help us try and win it or kick on to the next level. But we don't seem to do that. I mean, I'm not bemoaning all of the players that we buy, smart acquisitions and everything like that. But equally, it's not going to be a ticket to us trying to sign Marcus Rashford from Manchester United, for example. Let's bring him in. He's unsettled, and that's the sort of move that somebody like Arsenal would give would have a go at. I know Rashford sort of splits opinion. I think he's a very good player. I think he probably actually worked really well for Spurs. And we haven't been linked, and I have my heart set on him. It's just an example I'm plucking out. A statement type signing that, you don't get too bogged down with that stuff, but maybe we do need a bit of that as well. We need a balance between making a statement and also being shrewd. If we actually want to, win big stuff. I don't know. Let's. I'm just gonna have a look at what some of the messages that are coming in. Quite a few people messaging actually during this live. Let's have a look. Owen Lawrence says, "Geez, how are you still finding the motivation to do these? It's been the same performance for 4 months running." I mean, the motivation I have to do this, Owen, as you can see, is I am sat on my sofa, literally watching the darts in the background. It's the Premier League semi-final. Rob Cross versus Luke Humphreys. It's a close run affair actually at the moment. So either one's going to play Luke Littler in the final. I've actually really gotten into the darts this year since I think sort of sparked by Luke Littler a bit, but then I've just gotten into it overall. Juice Nut says, "Did we expect anything different? Missed the first 30, but we did okayish by the finishing." Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with that. We were, like I said at the top, we were all right. We weren't bad. We weren't great. It does concern me that we don't seem to create that many actual clear cut chances. We don't create many good opportunities. I know we kind of bemoan our lack of a focal point. We've sort of blamed Sonny for that. I didn't see much of a difference with Richarlison starting up top. I didn't see us really creating anything for him at all. So I don't know. I think the problem probably lies a bit further back than that. Jask says shambolic, somehow worse than the Arsenal performance. No, I don't agree with that. T Pace says my girlfriend bought me a Kulusevski shirt for Christmas and he's been shit since. Well, Chris Tucker asks what's happened to us. I wish I knew, mate. Stephen King, not the Stephen King. I've already made that joke before on here. I asked the question a few games ago whether we'd see Ange Ball again this season. Not only are we not seeing it, we're now looking like a very mediocre team. Yeah, we are looking like a very mediocre team in some respects. Mediocre probably veers more to. I mean, mediocre literally just means run of the mill average, doesn't it? And that's really what we are. It feels a lot more negative than I guess I feel towards the team because I still think we're okay. I'm just really hoping, banking on us going into next season with renewed confidence, fresh optimism, a few new players into the mix to give everybody a bit of a lift. And hopefully we can start the season in the same way that we did this year, but carry it on. Not that momentum slide when we get the first kind of bump in the road or whatever, that we can learn from this season and push on. James Maddison was just a few weeks ago saying how disappointed he was that we weren't in the title race, that we kind of let it peter out. So, let's see what we can do. David Tuffin says expected to lose tonight, but I'm still shocked at how bad we were. Did you? I mean, did you really think so? I just thought we were pretty bang average. PG, hello mate, says we made Chelsea look like a passable football team. We're not serious. I I still think Chelsea are better than they've been letting on this year, and I know this sounds like I'm making excuses for Tottenham. But the few times I have watched Chelsea this year, barring that Arsenal game, when they got battered the other week, I have sort of looked at Chelsea and thought, I'm surprised they are as far down the league as they are because I don't feel like they're that bad. I don't think they should get rid of Pochettino. I mean, look, I'm not going to hope that Chelsea do better, but I think it is starting to work for them a bit now. I do think it's starting to click. I think Chelsea might be a much better side next season under Pochettino. We saw a similar kind of thing ourselves, didn't we, when he was in charge of Tottenham? So I wouldn't be overly surprised. Magic Box says, I don't think it's over. That's maybe for the Champions League race that I was talking about earlier. Fine, mate. That's good. It's good to have optimism. I'm not here to, make you as jaded as many other people are. Eric Lamella killing spree underneath. Magic Box says we are not getting Champions League. So there we go. Stephen King again says giving away too many free kicks, no midfield, poor defending, no goal threat, so poor. I can't really argue with that. Moise Malik says players have no desire at all. They're all way too comfortable getting a paycheck and letting the results be what they be. I felt that in the past about Spurs. I don't know if I agree with you at the moment, mate. I just think maybe they are just a bit jaded by how the season's gone. But it's hard to know. It's hard to know. I mean, there's a lot of shuffling about of starting 11s and things like that. We don't really know who our best team is. We don't know what the best kind of players for Ange Postecoglou are. Maybe Ange doesn't know himself. I don't know if that's creating a kind of sense of confusion around the squad. You'd think that would motivate them a bit more, motivate players to want to stake a place in the squad or whatever. I don't know. Who knows? Ben Lynn says Emerson has to go. He's useless. I mean, he's just a backup player, isn't he? Really, at the end of the day. Ricky TFC cat. Yeah, there she is. Hello, Luna. This is probably the most interesting part of this stream. All right. Anyway. Somebody said here, how do you blame Emerson for the entire team being the cast? People arguing amongst themselves in the thing. Oh, Whitefoot says the end of the season can't come quick enough. Yeah, it's kind of what we're feeling. We're all feeling that about, aren't we? K9 McGurn1 says, where was Son? Magic Box says Son is gone. Yeah, who knows? Juicenut says we have Paul and City to come. Thank you, universe. Yeah, and what's the betting that we actually beat Manchester City? I shit you not. It looks increasingly likely that we beat City. I mean, I think Liverpool at Anfield is a write-off, isn't it? Generally is. Always has been. Probably always will be. So, I can't see that one coming to anything. Manchester City at home, I can probably see us beating them, being cheered on by Arsenal fans as we beat Manchester City. I mean, it's just turning into a horrible old season. I mean, the main thing I do continue to comfort myself with, is the fact that Arsenal got knocked out of the Champions League and didn't win the Champions League. So, yeah, there we go. Darren says, what was the point on subbing on Hill? Also, Lo Celso should have come on earlier. I don't really understand the Hill thing, considering we've heard that apparently Ange wants him out, doesn't rate him at all, is ready to get rid. So it just seems a bit bizarre, doesn't it? Brian Park says, Maddison, Son, Kulusevski, Saar, Basuma, Porro, Udogie. Essentially, every player's form has fallen off a cliff. It makes me think that either the boys have run out of gas or we've been figured out. Yeah, hard one to gauge, isn't it? I don't think. Do you think Porro's fallen off a cliff? I don't. I think Porro's still okay. It's hard to make a case for a lot of the rest of them, though. Like, a lot of them aren't playing that well at the moment. Oh, Rob Cross has just, anyone interested in the darts has just fluffed a match dart against Luke Humphries. Didn't realise he was battering him so hard. Hacker BLCPS says, and just checked out mentally. He had Conte Spurs career reel with it. No, he hasn't. He hasn't checked out. I'm not buying that. William Gardner, it feels like there is no coaching going on. The players look like they don't know each other. We don't know how to defend, pass, or shoot. I like Ange's style, but are the players being coached well? It's an interesting one, isn't it, mate? I mean, the quotes that keep coming out from Ange about the coaching or lack thereof, are quite alarming. They are quite bizarre, and I don't know if they're being kind of misinterpreted or if he's not making his point clearly enough. I mean, he's pretty good orator, isn't he? Really, Ange Postecoglou. He's good at kind of letting people know what he's thinking. So if you're to take it on face value, I mean, he isn't putting much credence in coaching set pieces, for example, and that's a clear and glaring kind of weakness in what we're doing at the moment. What are we doing? And Eric Dyer was talking about how, there's no real kind of coaching of tactics or anything. I don't know. It's hard to work out, isn't it? Eric Lamella Killingsbury says if every player is bad, we have a management issue. Agency panic. We're soft, rolled over, got our tummies tickled. Yeah. It. I don't know. It's tough, isn't it? Ben Lynn, we're so slow in the final third. No idea what to do. We shat the bed when we got close to goal. Yeah, and that's something that we do quite a bit, isn't it? Kept seeing that against Arsenal where we would get a break and then we'd just slow it down ourselves. We'd lose our own momentum by just playing kind of backwards or conservative passes. I don't know, it's difficult. Phil Mayo, the thing I can't grasp about the set pieces, it's marking. We're just not marking. Today it's Emerson, Højbjerg and Son standing still. It's hard to break apart how much of that is design. Yeah, that feels quite fair, doesn't it? Nut says, is this Halloween? You look scary with that lighting. Look, it's just a little lamp in my living room as I'm sat on the sofa. And did Cross win?
Yeah.
Rob Cross is in the final of the Aberdeen Premier League darts tonight. About to play Luke Littler. So, I mean, that's more exciting. That's more exciting than Tottenham at the moment. Premier League darts. It's good. Just trying to see. Callum THFC says, it's getting bad when we're bringing on Brighton Hill. Juicenut says, I love Pissy Ange at the 35-minute mark. He put a rocket up the players. I saw that. There's a clip, wasn't there, of him shouting like, stop playing it backwards. Stop playing it backwards. So there you go. I'm just trying to see. That was pathetic. Feels like we need Wilson T. That was pathetic. Feels like we need a whole new front line and proper midfielders. Okay, here's an interesting one. Jonas Milner, how long do you think Ange gets next season playing like this before he's under real pressure? Hoping it will turn around with new signings, but it now looks like a real possibility that it won't. I mean, again, it's hard to say. Look, let's not make rash judgments on. It is annoying. I definitely agree. The performance levels have dipped massively. We are kind of fading out. This season is fading out, but is it doom and gloom for next year? I don't know, and none of us know, right? Because I know people keep defining back to Pep didn't have a good first season, Klopp didn't, Arteta. I don't, I'm not that asked about making that comparison because there's plenty of managers that don't have a good first season and then go on to have a terrible second season as well. So, Eric Ten Hag isn't setting the place, alight, is he really, at Manchester United? Is his second season, isn't it? I don't know. So, I don't know. I'm hoping we'll be much better next season. How long does he get if we're playing like this? I think it all depends on how the squads are reacting to it. It all depends on where we are in the league. I would say if we're 5th place at just outside the Champions League places again, I don't think he'll be under really any pressure at all. Unless we're starting to, like I say, hear things from the inside that there's, disharmony in the squad. And who do you replace him with at the moment anyway, really? I mean, there's people seem to sort of fancy the idea of Ruben Amorim. Don't know if he's going to West Ham or not. Liverpool have brought in Arne Slot, haven't they? Xavi Alonso doesn't seem to want to go anywhere. Maybe he'll end up going to Real Madrid probably anyway, or Bayern Munich. Who knows? So, who do you get in to replace Ange Postecoglou at the moment? And it's, I don't know. You don't be careful what you wish for, because Thomas Tuchel's going to be out of a job, and I just couldn't bear the thought of us having another ex-Chelsea manager in at the moment. JM says, "Why? So how long does he get? I don't know. If we're in this place at this same time next season, then I don't think he's going to go anywhere." JM, why does Ange never bring on youth? Don't know. Who knows? It's a bit annoying, isn't it? Because I think that's the one really kind of disappointing thing about this season is that I wanted to sort of at least end this year feeling like, yeah, we're on the brink of something different, something really new. And it doesn't feel, in all respects anyway, that different or that new. It feels like, yeah, okay, we go into games somewhat more aggressively, and the noises that come out of Ange versus what we heard out of Antonio Conte are very different. However, there's an air of it for me of like Spurs being in a decent place in the league because it's reflective of our size of club. It's reflective of our wage bill. Generally speaking, the wage bill correlates with league positions, right? I don't know if we've seen this. It's generally startlingly accurate. And Spurs tend to finish fourth, fifth, sixth because that's our wage bill in comparison to the rest of the league. And it feels like we're not really where we are fully on merit. It kind of feels like we're here by default because it just makes sense that we would beat X amount of teams, lose to certain teams, draw with other teams, and end up where we are because that's just what size of club we are. A lot of games that we end up winning, a lot of games that we have won, at least in this second half of the season, I felt really have just been a case of we've beaten them because we've got better players than them, not because we've played better necessarily. I know a lot of people disagreed with me on the Luton game at home, for example, or even the Nottingham Forest game. But I thought both of those teams did really well. We didn't really sort of better them, other than we literally did. We beat both of those teams, but still, I don't feel like on the balance of play we were like miles better than either of those sides. For example, there's two examples that I can pluck off the top of my head right now. It's I don't know. It's interesting. Um, Somebody saying Paul O'Keefe is saying that Isak to Arsenal is likely. I mean, that would be horrific. I don't know why Newcastle would sell him to Arsenal. I know maybe because of their FFP stuff, but that would be horrific because Isak is a brilliant, brilliant player. That would be annoying, but oh well, we don't need to worry about that. Wilson T says he thinks that Ange gets no longer than November playing this dross, but the players need to take a long, hard look at themselves. KEB says darts better than Spurs. Yep, agree, mate. I do agree. Stephanie says, I don't care if it's Johnson's first season. Get rid. Yeah, I mean, I'm not in love with the lad. I think there's some promise there, but I'm not in love with him. Um, RS9 Coy says, we're fucked, mate. If we can't beat this version of Chelsea, we never will. Yeah, it is a bit tough, isn't it? Ben McRae also says, Brennan Johnson tilted, crying eyes emojis face. 1, 2, 3, about 7 or 8 of them. Paxton End, we could have played another 90 minutes and still wouldn't have scored. Our attacks are one dimensional. Look, as you can tell, basically, a lot of people are particularly unhappy with Spurs right now in general. I'm not trying to be a happy clapper about it. I'm pretty unhappy about it as well. I'm just trying to kind of rein myself in from nobody wants to tune on right and hear 30, 40 minutes of me going on about how crap everything is. It's not great, but trying to find any positives that I can in all of that. And the positives are we got a young squad, we got a lot of talented players. We've seen how well this team can play when it's feeling inspired, when it's got the bit between its teeth. The start of the season, was incredible. We were all excited watching that. We were sort of thinking we got our Tottenham back. I don't know what our Tottenham back is. I mean, we haven't won anything for fucking over a decade. Um, whatever it means. Spurs were playing better at the start of the season. If we can get back there, it is possible. That is within this team, right? That exists. The power to do that exists within this team. So let's not lose sight of that. Let's just try and hold on to the sort of the hope that we are going to bring in a couple of good players in the summer. We can go again. We can go again. That's the football expression, isn't it? We go again. We can go again next season. Renewed hope, renewed confidence that Arsenal haven't won the league this year, that they won't sign Isak in the summer, and we can go and do our best and win something next year. Because, yeah, I mean, look, it's not fun. It hasn't been fun for months. It's really quite weird, isn't it? But equally, I don't think it's terrible. And that's why we find ourselves just in this weird kind of middle ground flux, as Spurs so often find themselves in. But we'll see. Anyway, I'm going to watch the darts final now. I'm not going to do the players individually because I don't, I think all of the players were just all right tonight. I don't think anyone was particularly terrible. A lot of people digging out Emerson. I think it's a bit easy. Nobody was particularly bad. Nobody was particularly great. Let's give them everyone 5 out of 10. Do you know what I mean? Because it was that sort of an evening, and that's what it is. If you want to hear more of this sort of waffle, sign up to the Patreon, patreon.com/RTRpod. If you don't want to do that, don't do that. Just drop a like on it. If you're watching it on YouTube now, drop a like. If you're listening to this after the fact, leave a rating, leave a review, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Share it, do all that stuff, far and wide. All lots of likes coming in on YouTube. Thank you very much, everybody. And yeah, Liverpool on Sunday. That'll be good fun, won't it? Come on, you Spurs.